right, guys, we say welcome back. I gotta do that. Okay, we say welcome back. Thank you for joining us again. We hope that you had a wonderful, relaxing lunch. We know you were actually ready and awesome watching the keynote speaker again, but we have another fabulous presenter to actually bring to the stage. So I want to actually go ahead and tell you a little bit about Miss Tisha Poncio. She is a very energetic, enthusiastic learner. She's a teacher, a coach, empowered educator. Guys, I am ready for this session to get started. I don't know about you, but we're going to learn some things. We're going to actually see what she's going to bring to the table. And we want you to make sure you're thinking about all the ways that you can integrate what she's showing you into what you do on a day-to-day basis. Your learners are thriving off of you and with you. So we want to make sure that everything is staying positive and we're giving you what you need at the time that you need it. We want to feed your soul. So at this point, I want to make sure you're ready. Yeah, okay, I think everybody's ready now. Ready, ready. All right. So this is Miss Tisha Poncio.
Hey, everybody. Thanks, Jamila, for that awesome introduction. That was incredible. I am so excited to be with you today. And honestly, I just have to shout out Aldine ISD, everybody in relation with TCCA. This is one of the best conferences, one, that I've ever attended, but two, just working as a presenter with so many great people. So I'm so excited that you have joined with me today. Today, we're going to talk about creativity tools and how to take students from completion to creation. And what I want to tell you is that I am in my 21st year of education. I started off as a classroom teacher, secondary level. I've taught English, business computers, multimedia, programming, yearbook, broadcasting, and most recently, the last 3 years, along with digital coaching, I have also led a group of students who are student tech leaders, and I put them in a real world situation where they are serving their student body, the teachers and the administrators of our school. They are solving problems and troubleshooting iPad issues or technology issues. And so a lot of the things that I share at any conference, but especially this conference today, these are the things that I've implemented with my students. In order to give feedback to my teachers when I go coach them, I want to have examples. And so I'm going to show you a lot of examples today in this session and also in the next session, which is how to leverage Wakelet for student engagement. So if you want to hop on that session with me, you absolutely may. So everything I give you, I know that we're going to share the Wakelet link with you eventually. This creativity tools, you're going to have access to that. But what I want to do is I actually want to start off and give you a choice board. So when I share my screen, you're going to see a Wakelet collection. And on that collection, I actually have a little choice board for you. And the whole reason that I wanted to do this, one, is to kind of get you out of your comfort zone a little bit. And also, I like to give choices. And I want to showcase that even in a Wakelet, you can give some choices to your students. So we have a Menti. And you guys can screenshot this if you need to, take a picture with your phone. Menti.com, you're going to enter the code 8472102. And it's going to ask you a question. So that's just a very quick survey. Then your second choice is to go to join.nearpod.com. You will enter the code BRZ7A. So I'm going to go ahead and start that activity. You have about 2 minutes to work on that activity. It's going to have you draw a picture. And then I have a Padlet, and the Padlet is padlet.com/TishaJPoncio/TCCA20. And the Padlet is going to give you a choice. You're actually going to be able to add a photo, a meme, a video, or text that explains how you feel when you're asked to create. So I just like to model for you all the different ways that you can engage students and have them be creative in their choices of giving you feedback or creating examples of their learning. I love Nearpod, so I don't know if we have any Nearpod users out there, but I love Nearpod. The quick launch on the Nearpods are really a great way to give those students the opportunities to create. So Haley and Nicole, they are working on their drawings. I put a time limit on there just for the sake of time on our presentation. So we'll come back to those at the end. Again, you can screenshot this mini choice board and work on that as I present through the rest of the material. We'll come back and look at that before we wrap up for questions. So I'm going to continue on, and I want to talk to you about the design thinking process. Design thinking, if you are not familiar with design thinking, I highly recommend you jot that down in your notes. You come back to it later or later in the week. But design thinking, I did not always use this process. So that's the first thing you should know. But once I discovered design thinking, it has become the foundation of my entire classroom. This is how I run my classroom, even though I'm coaching teachers or even if I'm coaching my students. This is really the basis of everything. And what I love about the design thinking process is that it really reiterates the idea that it's okay to make mistakes. And I think there is a correlation, at least I know for me, growing up, I never felt like I had a natural ability to create. And so I just wouldn't create. It was like, because it didn't come easily to me, I just decided I wasn't good at it and I didn't need to try it anymore. What I love is that now as an adult, I realize it's okay to make mistakes and it's okay to design and for it to not be completely perfect the first time. What we do in my class and what I also do with my teachers, I have my teachers keep a little, it's like a school professional portfolio. So they go add their artifacts of things that they're doing in their classrooms. But my students also do the same thing. They keep all of their designs to reflect on growth. And then also in the design thinking process, I'm going to scroll down a little bit because I want you to remember that there is a way, not the way. I've told my students that in the past, and they kind of ran with that idea because normally in their classrooms, they are being told there's just one way to do something. And I remind them that there is a way, there's not the way. If I want to go, if we all of us in the session go to California, we're all going to maybe do it a different way. We're going to take a different airline. Maybe we're going to drive. If we all drive, we're going to take a different car. Maybe our cars are different colors. Maybe we're going to go stop at different places. We're going to get gas at different places, but we're all going to end up to that destination. And that destination is going to be that end learning objective. What I also love about the design thinking process is it allows for peer feedback and teacher feedback. And this is very important when you're in the classroom. So you don't have to be an expert in creativity to allow your students to create. That's the first thing I really want to remind you of. I am in no way the most creative person in the world, but you can see that my background, I actually designed a custom background on this Wakelet and I designed this header. They're not super awesome, but they're also much better than when I started. So I would love for you to start thinking about this. What problem are you going to solve? That's always what we start with. What possible solutions are there? Because there's not just one. There could be many solutions. And then we're going to talk about the steps of those solutions, and then they're going to implement on that. One of the ways that we utilize this is my students design graphics for the campus or for teachers. So the problem is, what does a graphic need to say? What solutions can they go about that? Well, can they use Adobe Spark or Canva or Google Slides? What are they going to use? Then what are the processes? And then they're going to implement. And the improvement piece is where you're going to get teacher feedback, for example, or peer-to-peer feedback, or even teacher feedback. Specifically for me, I may say, well, that graphic looks great, except these things maybe need to be thought through a little more, or maybe take this piece out. So we continue to go through that process over and over and over, no matter what we're learning and no matter what we're doing. So I have this in my classroom. I have two rooms, actually, a classroom for teachers and then one for students. We have that in both classrooms, because I also need to be reminded of the design thinking process. So I really love this. I love talking about this. I'm going to move on just for time's sake, but you guys can reach out to me. We can talk more about design thinking later. Jamboard. I don't know if you're using Google Jamboard, And I knew it existed personally, but I just didn't really. I know time is like a huge deal, especially in 2020. And I just didn't have time to really explore it. But 2020 did afford me the ability to start playing around with Jamboard. And this is a graphic from Tony Vincent, just showing you all the different things that your students can create with just Jamboard. And I think that a lot of times teachers and students and maybe even parents and administrators, we get caught up in what's the best app for this and what's a new app for that, and we forget to keep it simple. What I love about Jamboard is it keeps it very simple. I can share or not. I can collaborate with students. Students can collaborate with their peers. I can download my work as a PDF. So can students. I can save it as an image and upload it to a learning management assignment. I can make copies of it. I love the sticky note features, the colors, all the different pens and markers. It's just very simple. I also love that my students have the ability to present if they wanted to from Jamboard. And of course, my math teachers love the graphing paper and all the different backgrounds. So I would just tell you, when you start off creating with students or even for yourself, start simple. You can keep it simple, but this is a great tool to collaborate and communicate, and have your students critically think through. I know for iPads, we use iPads at our school. They don't necessarily have to have a stylus. They can use their finger. They could screen record the process that they're using for that particular math problem and the solution that they've come up with, and upload that and then get teacher feedback and comments. There's honestly so many ways to use Jamboard. So this is one of my top creativity tools that I want to share with you. And don't be like me. Don't put it off. Go play around with it, even on your phone if you have to. And then I've also included from my friend Holly Clark. She has some great Jamboard templates, and I have included her Wakelet collection inside of this Wakelet collection for you. If you have not checked these out, you definitely need to. I love on Twitter that we're sharing resources, especially in 2020. And we're able to take those things that other people are doing and really apply them into the classroom with what we're doing. So definitely check out these Jamboard templates. Then I want to talk to you, and really talking to my elementary teachers, little learners. This obviously would apply to everybody, but I specifically want to talk about that because I did a presentation with a second grade teacher, and she wanted her students to do a research project. And in that research project, you can see she has different questions that she's asking them, and they're learning about information literacy and about their state. And then she's going to have them present it, and she's given them 5 minutes. So she said, I want to do this in Flipgrid, but I really don't know where to start. So she and I teamed up and we put together this creative research project. I'm not going to play this video. I'm going to actually let you guys go back and look at this. And I also want to know, you can reach out to me via email. I believe it is like in the bottom. If not, we could put that at the end of the session. But I have so many resources that go with this project. This is just a quick glance at this. But she had her students do that. And Luke, yes, I have permission to share Luke's video. I'm not going to play this video for time's sake, but you can tell that Luke is the main part of this Flipgrid video. And you also know that Luke had Utah, and he's talking about football. And, you know, I can kind of see where he's going with this. He's front and center. There are lots of examples that I have that I can share with you later via email or Twitter. But I want to showcase this project because from beginning to end, right, the beginning of the project and the research to the very end presentation, we calculated up that this teacher met, I believe, 25 to 30 learning objectives cross-curricular with this one project. And the truth is, she really stepped back after giving them their guidelines, giving them their boundaries, telling them what she wanted from them. She really just stepped back and gave them the tools and waited to see what would happen. And she messaged me at the end of this project and just said, Tisha, this was the most incredible project. Look at what these kids have come up with. Look at how different they did this presentation. It wasn't wrong. they all met the expectations, but it was just different. And so I loved her enthusiasm about it. And I loved being able to help her with that because the students enjoyed the project. And what happened with this particular student, Luke, he actually was able then to join me on a student panel for our district because his presentation skills had been practiced. And he got on a Zoom and really showcased his voice and talked about remote learning later in the year. So I love this project. It hits so many learning objectives, and I would love to share that with you if you are interested later. I have lots of resources on that. So next, we're going to talk about social and emotional learning. SEL, I will be honest with you, I have not studied a lot of SEL until 2020. And then I realized just how important social and emotional learning was for students, for teachers, for principals. It really is a big deal. So over the summer and the springtime, I did a session with my friend Laura Steinbrink, and we talked about social and emotional learning. And I've shared this personal example before, but I want to share it with you. So the story behind this is that my son, Jace, is a childhood cancer survivor. And we have already gone through, periods of isolation and periods where we had to wear masks and out in public and periods where we couldn't go anywhere because we were really trying to protect him because his immune system was low. So when 2020 hit and we never went back to school after spring break, I noticed after about a month, there was definitely a decline in his mood. And when I would try to talk to him about it, he didn't want to talk about it. So one day I thought, what would I do with a student? And I grabbed his Chromebook, I logged into Buncee, I slid the Chromebook over and I said, I know you don't want to talk, but I want you to create for me how you're feeling. And that's all the instruction I gave him. So very open-ended. So he designed this Buncee, and let me see what I've done here. Hold on. I think I was in edit mode. Sorry, you guys. On accident, I was in edit mode. Okay, let me scroll up. Okay, here we go. So sorry. There went my flow. Okay, so here is his How Am I Feeling by Super Jace. The first slide in this tells me he's lonely. It's raining. He's sad. There's the sad Buncee man. He's also feeling depressed. So he stretched out Buncee man and put him on the ground. And then this one really got me because I didn't realize how scared he was until I saw this slide. So definitely for me, this was insight into where Jace was emotionally. And then I started talking him through, who are your safe people? Who are the people that you feel comfortable with and safe with? And so I had him illustrate that. And then we talked about, what do you do when you, what things are you doing that make you feel better? And so without saying anything, he created these slides. And we were able to really talk through that, but it was also a way for me to see how I could help him. So I knew I needed to come up with some fun ideas that were safe for him and would take his mind off of kind of the reality of what we were going through, because it was very much a trigger and PTSD for him. So outside time, this just helped him learn to cope with the stress because he's still at home doing online learning, but it also helped me as his parent. So what did I learn from this? I learned that as a teacher, I needed to give more open-ended space for my students to create and kind of release whatever emotions they were having. So this is a true story. My high school students, I have one in particular who loves to create with Buncee. She just took to it right away, and she set a timer every day that she's in class for 12:10. At 12:10, her alarm goes off. In the beginning, I wasn't sure what was happening, but at 12:10, that is her reminder to take a brain break, and she creates. And what I've noticed is it's her break in the day. It's a break from the stress of all of her assignments and all the expectations. And it really has also conditioned me to remember to stop and create something for fun, not for any purpose at all. But I think it's very important for us to remember that students need that space. And they need that open-ended space. We always want to kind of control where they're at, what they're learning, what the questions are, what the outcome is. And the truth is, they just need the space and the safe place with you as their teacher. So that's a real personal example of creating for SEL, but there's lots of other examples I could give you. I'm finding that my students really need more of this. When they're creating, I think it's just a great focus for them. And then I'll show you some examples in a little bit on how my students have actually taken those practice create breaks and they have actually used that for something else as in their learning. So now I'm going to show you this example, showcase and talenting growth. So creativity, right, it really has become really by accident the focus of my classroom. And when I started off with my student leaders, that was not really my focus in the beginning, but it's kind of taken a life of its own. So this collection is a graphic collection from a student named Honora. And Honora also took to creating in Buncee right away. I would try to recommend that she used a different tool, and she would always like state her case for why she needed to use Buncee. So in the very beginning of her creativity period last year, she started off in Buncee. I'm going to show you, I'm going to scroll down. You will have access to this later, so you can actually go back and look. But you can see that she started with the CHS marching band little graphic. This was her very first Buncee. From there, she made this tree. She would be mortified, honestly. She knows I'm sharing this with you, but looking at her progress, I mean, in the beginning, she's like, these just weren't even good, Miss Poncio. But she started then applying her creativity skills to her different classes, so Spanish and nutrition. And then you can see her progress. She did it for one of her tasks in a different class. Then she started creating social media stuff in Buncee, and then Canva. She's like creating her name for Twitter. And then you keep scrolling up, and now she's creating a resume, and she's creating more social media graphics. And then somebody has asked her now to create for him. So she's now having other students ask her to create things for them. And then she's really just utilized her graphic creativity for things that are meaningful to her, that she's applying in her own life. So I love this example because what happened, I never asked Honora to do this. This graphic collection, Honora did this on her own. It wasn't something that I was monitoring or having expectations of. She was just creating, and then she started creating for class, and then she started creating to make things better, just with her resume and her portfolio. And then people started taking notice. And I think what it does for students, but also as her teacher, it really reminds me that they have a space to lead their learning if we sometimes will just back up, right? And so I have really showcased this because she's a great example of progress in creativity. I'm amazed at it. I wish I had done this at some point in my life with the graphic design. Because again, I'll tell you, I'm the little girl over here. Let me go back to the Padlet. Okay, this is me right here. This is how I used to feel creating and how sometimes I still feel when people tell me to create things. So the fact that Honora has really grown in that aspect has been incredible to watch. So this Bob Ross challenge is the next tip that I have for you. And Sean Farnham is the one that came up with it. His Twitter handle is Magic Pants Jones. You can go follow him. I learned this from my friend Laura Steinbrink. Now, I'm just going to tell you, Tisha Poncio has still not done this challenge that I'm sharing with you, but I have it on my list. So the idea is that you take a Bob Ross picture and you try to recreate it in a different tool. This one just so happens to be in Buncee, but you could do this in Jamboard. Pull in different aspects and different pictures and draw the clouds. So this is one example. Here's a second example. I'll just tell you, I'm not here yet, right? Like I honestly, in the first session, I told them, but here are my markers and here is my coloring book. Okay. So I sometimes, and what I want you to remember, this is actually down below. Creativity does not just have to be digital. This helps me remember that I need to kind of get out of the digital space and I need to create and have something tangible to hold. So we'll talk about that again in a minute. This next example, unfortunately, I cannot show you these videos, but I'm giving you the link so you can go watch them later, because I created an assignment for my students that said something like, hey, if you had one song that would play for the rest of your life every time you entered in the room, what would it be? So I called it One Song for Life assignment. And I gave it to these students. You can see this was back in 2017. And this student, you can already tell by the background. Okay. The lighting isn't great. The background's not great. And honestly, all she's going to do when you watch this video is she's just going to walk by with the music playing. So, I took that. It was within the requirements of the assignment, but then I gave it to her again a couple of years later. You can see this was in 2020. Now, I really can't show you this one because this music is copyrighted, but you've got to go watch it. And I have permission to share her stuff. You can already tell she's got a costume. She's got a great background. She looks like she's about to play the guitar. And I don't know what's going on with this TV right here, but I guarantee you she's going to do something with the TV. When I watched this video, I honestly could not believe the difference for her. And I don't know that she's added this to her portfolio, but this was her very first example. And then to go from that to this honestly shows the growth in creativity, the growth in taking risks for her. It really has been such an honor to watch them grow in that creativity. And in doing so, it inspires me to be more creative. So definitely go watch those two videos. Then I want to talk to all my introverts out there, because there is a misconception that Tisha Poncio is an extrovert. And especially when I get on to webinars with other educators, this is one of my favorite things to do, is to be with all of you, to share and learn from you and learn with you. But when I'm in a classroom setting, I really sometimes don't like to be at the front. I really am not going to ask the questions. So I really, really relate to my introvert students. And Blake was one of those students. He really did not like to talk at all. And he didn't listen to music. That's also what you should know about Blake. And when I gave him this project assignment, I wasn't sure what he would come up with. But even back in 2017, which is when this video was recorded, and you go watch this, you will see he does not say one word in this video, but he conveys an idea. He makes me laugh. And I really connected with this video, but he never talked in it. So I think it's really important, again, and I always say this, give your students that space to be creative, especially your introverts. They're going to show you all kinds of things about themselves that you would never have known. And one of the other things I'm seeing just specifically in this moment in time, a lot of students that are online learning are really empowered to use their voice. They're asking questions, they're answering questions because they are online. Those same students then come back to school, for example, because we're face to face, and maybe then they're not saying anything. So again, I think that is, my teachers have said that's been very difficult. I would say projects like this are really going to get them out of their shell. So I use Flipgrid very often for that. I love it because you can moderate the videos. Only the teacher can see them. Just a really great tool in general. Along with that, I've given you a video response rubric. I've even told you to go make a copy. Please use this single point rubric for your creativity projects. If you don't want to do videos, you want to do graphics, you can definitely change this up and you can utilize it any way you need to in your classroom. This is an oldie but a goodie. I created this a year or two ago, but I still get asked for permission to use this. So please go make a copy and make it your own and let it help you grade those creativity projects. Here's the example I was talking about earlier. Creativity does not equal digital. And right now, the students that I'm working with are telling me, Miss Poncio, we are on our devices all the time. We really need a break. So I have encouraged my students to create on my whiteboard. I keep one of the boards open and I keep markers up there and I just tell them to go draw. So sometimes they just need that feeling of having a marker in their hand and drawing something out. So this is an example from Jill. And this was for a different class. The objective was they had to make a name tag that would hang above their desk. And there are some requirements. For example, this creation had to fit into a Pringles chip can, which I thought was hysterical because like I just love that idea. Now here's Jill's creation. Okay. And then she showcases, she actually sent me this from college, you guys. So she was sharing it with me. She shows me how it fits into the Pringles can for storage. I love this reminder because I think it's very important to remember that not everything has to be digital. And I am a digital learning coach, but the truth is we need balance. We all need balance in our lives. So create something. It doesn't have to be just on your computer or your phone. Next, I'm going to show you this example from Anora again. Now she's really using Wakelet. Her teachers said, the Count of Monte Cristo, I need you to do this character symbolism project. And I think it needed to be done in slides. So what my students find is that a lot of teachers will say, you can only do this in slides. So the idea is trying to get the teachers to agree to let the students use whatever medium is going to work best for them to show their learning. So she said, hey, I want to do a Wakelet collection. And her teacher said, absolutely, as long as you meet these requirements. And so she created Wakelet. You're going to see that it's very basic compared to her other graphic portfolio. But she has met all the requirements. She, gives a little intro. And she pulls in pictures. And the great thing is, for Wakelet, these are in their little collection. So she just had to pull them over and explain how they relate to the Count of Monte Cristo. And again, this is very simple and basic, but she's met those requirements and she's had the ability to make choices in how she shows her learning, which is the most important piece of this. Next, I want to talk to you about podcasts. So I don't know if any of you out there have already done student podcasts. This was a goal that we had last fall. So the fall of 2019, we said, we're going to do a podcast by the end of 2020. Nobody could have known what our 2020 was going to look like. So now looking back, I feel like it was a very, very large goal. We didn't even know how large, but we ended up pulling off the podcast recording. We did 2 episodes in the spring of 2020. And ironically, being remote learning for that spring semester afforded us the opportunity to actually create and do this podcast. So I want to show you first how my students collaborated on this document. Again, this is about creativity. So we knew the problem we needed to solve was create a podcast. What's the podcast going to be about? Who's going to write the script? How is this going to look? Who's going to design the music? There were so many different problems we were solving. I've given you access to this document specifically because I want you to see this is not, it's my document because I made a copy of it, but the students created this document with this table. And they actually, you'll see, they tell me who is responsible. So I didn't know what I was doing for the podcast. They told me what I was saying. And so you see that here. When you hear me say, welcome listeners, it's because the student team told me that's what I was saying. So I really, really sort of created a culture of creativity and learner autonomy in my classroom, because the truth is they're running this class. They're running this particular project. So they intro themselves, they write notes over to the side. They kind of decided what they were going to talk about and the links they needed to include. And so then they just said, Poncio, we need you to go to Anchor and record this for us. So when you go to this link, episode 1, again, in a Wakelet collection, they have added all the show notes. They have added their Spotify link. They've added, I'm trying to think where else it is. They've added everything you need to know about this particular episode. And they also worked on the design, the logo right here. So they created a logo for the podcast. And so you have everything you need right here. Anchor, Spotify, all the links that you would want to know about, the music, where it came from. So lots of learning happening in this. And this is really their creation. I just facilitated the whole process for them. So I would love for you to listen, give them feedback. They really enjoy connecting with educators and other students. So definitely give them a shout out if you happen to follow them on Twitter. The choice boards that I've included for you, kind of like we did at the beginning, choice boards are a great way to give students creativity and just being in charge of their learning. This is a reading response choice board from Morgan Cave. Shout out to Morgan. She has great content and she's very knowledgeable in the Apple environment. So that is one of my go-tos just to get my students and teachers sort of acclimated to the iPad. Then I've also included a teacher learning menu, but like everything else I share out with you guys, please know that you can make a copy and you can utilize it however you need for your classroom. If you don't have access to that, you can just email me or tweet me, direct message, whatever, and I will make sure you have access, because really 2020 is about making things easier for teachers. And so any way that I can do that, you just let me know. I want to share with you that I use Adobe Spark. And what I love about Adobe Spark is it tells me right away to tell my story. And I think it's very important for us to remember when we allow students to create that they are able to tell a story. And telling a story with learning is probably the most powerful thing you can do. It really seems to stick with them. So I love that Adobe Spark actually reminds me to do that. I also use Canva personally very often. You can see I've done my resume and I put together little infographics for my students and my teachers. So just want to make sure that you guys know I'm practicing what I preach. I'm trying to remember to utilize these tools every day. And then I want to talk to you about one kind of hot topic. Okay, so let's talk about that. I know I'm running out of time, but we're almost done. So I'm going to open up this Instagram account. And I know that TikTok is a very hot topic these days, super hot topic with everybody. And I'm going to tell you that I was an anti-TikToker for a very long time. So I came back to school this year and my students said, "Hey, Ms. Poncio, we have an Instagram SWAT account. We have a Twitter SWAT account. We have a Snapchat. Can we do a TikTok?" And I said, "No, absolutely not. We're not doing that. I cannot do that." So they let a couple of weeks go by. And then they came to me and said, "Ms. Poncio, now we have a solution." See, there's that design thinking. Now we have a solution. We can create the TikToks on our account, save them to our camera roll, and upload them to the SWAT Instagram or the Reels, which is new on Instagram. And I said, okay, we'll try it once and we'll see how it goes. Well, I'm going to scroll down and show you. You can see, they were sharing some graphics and they're sharing our podcast. And then you can see here, Honora and Brady started getting creative with TikToks and they started sending little messages. And one of the things that Honora and Brady noticed and told me right off the bat was that the engagement with the TikToks, you can see, is much more than with any of their other posts. So, I let them create. And then I had them explain to me why. So there's a whole language on TikTok that I didn't understand, and they are very slowly explaining it to me. You can see that earlier this week, they actually convinced me to do a TikTok with them. And it all revolves around SWAT and what we do in our SWAT room, like how we serve the students and the teachers. So all of that being said, I want to remind you, one, there is a way, not the way. I want to remind you that it's okay to allow our students the ability to teach us. I know that's flipping the script on a lot of different ideas, but letting go of the control has really benefited me. Otherwise, I wouldn't known how to use Wakelet. I wouldn't have been great at using Buncee. I obviously wouldn't know anything about TikTok. And so just being open to hearing your students out and letting them teach you. Now, the TikTok, I'm going to tell you, because I tried it myself, okay? The critical thinking involved in creating a TikTok kind of is mind-blowing to me because there is an order. There is a process. And remember, there's also this like special language. So there are these inside jokes with the music that you use and the different effects for your voice, the filters. I mean, there's so much to it that it honestly overwhelmed me. I've told some people today that I decided I would create one because I thought, how hard could it be? the truth is, it's pretty hard, the critical thinking involved. It took me a whole hour to create one TikTok that I believe was just 15 seconds. So I just want to remind you to be open to hearing from your students and letting them teach you. And the other thing I want to remind you, if you're comfortable, Brene Brown said this, I heard it on a podcast this week. It really applies here. If you're comfortable, you're not learning. If your students are comfortable, they're probably not really engaged with the learning. TikTok makes me uncomfortable. Among Us makes me uncomfortable. But I will tell you that when I start being uncomfortable, that's really when I start learning. So on that Wakelet link, we're going to share that with you now, hopefully, if we haven't already. On there, you're going to see I've linked everything, every tool that I have really talked about with you. They're all there. I've also given you my contact information. I created this on Bunsy. They have really great business cards over there. And I want to wrap up by looking at these illustrations. Look at this. You guys are so happy to be here today. That makes me happy. Look at that Bitmoji, Jessica. I love it. You guys have done great with this. I love that you guys are happy. I know it is a very trying time for teachers. So just seeing your smiles drawn out make me happy. I love all of these because listen, I think a lot of us can relate to this guy right here. And then let's look at the Mentimeter. So how often do you allow students to create each week? So most of you say 1 to 2 times. A couple of you have said none. Some of you say every day. That's super impressive. And then 3 to 5 times. You guys are doing great. Here's what I want you to remember. I'm going to say it again. If you're comfortable, you're not learning. Remember, it's okay to be uncomfortable, and it's okay for your students to also be uncomfortable. So what questions do we have? What is the name of the program? The SWAT program, is that what we're asking? I know, Jeanette, it's in the private chat. Is that correct? The SWAT program?
No, it was the Bunsy. Someone was asking about that.
Okay, so Bunsy is the program, one of the programs that I use. And I was asked about this last session, so I'm just going to cover it. But somebody said, Tisha, are you only sticking with like these 3 tools to create? The answer is yes. My advice to you is not to get overwhelmed. I know in 2020, lots of people are throwing lots of digital tools on your walls and you're very overwhelmed. The cognitive overload is actually a thing. So I stick with Bunsy for myself. I stick with Flipgrid. I stick with Wakelet. I also do a little Canva and a little Adobe Spark. The truth is I can do Adobe Spark on my phone. So anything I can do on my phone I'm going to be a fan of. But the truth is I tell my students when I give them projects, you can use anything that's on your school issued device, right? Any of those apps. But know that I'm not an expert in all of them. And know as a teacher, you do not have to be the expert. You heard me say, and I will say it, I say all the time, I didn't know anything about Wakelet until Julie taught me, and I didn't know anything about Bunsy until Honora sat down with me, because I, truthfully, as a 21-year educator, was resistant. I'm still resistant, you guys. So, just explore, experiment. Don't put too much pressure and expectations on yourself as an educator. Let the kids run with it and see what happens,
And that's always the thing. The students will actually show us things that they are using, and we can see how to incorporate those into what we're actually doing. Because when they actually bring those tools, they're giving us the leeway into their world to be able to now integrate what we're trying to teach them with the tools that they're currently using.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So this has been an awesome session. Guys, I already posted, you see in the ticker down below, your super secret word for this session is tenacity. So this is what I want you to make sure you remember. She has shown us some great tools. I was sitting here texting my daughter. I was like, hey, go check out these schools right here. And she texted me back to myself, why? And I told her, can you stop texting me 1-letter words? Or it's just not a word. But again, these are the things that you brought some things to light that I didn't think about, especially with the population that I actually am really focused on, which is our special needs population. These are some great things to actually bring to them to allow them to dive into their world. Because for the simple fact, they're not the talkers in the classroom. They're
Right.
not the ones that share out, but these tools will give them that voice that we need to really be able to dig into their souls and actually find out, baby, what are you trying to share with me? What are you telling me? Because I have those students that are nonverbal,
Yeah.
but they are still expressive and they
Right.
want to share out with you. So this gives me another avenue to get to them. And as you say, curate that board for them. Let them start to actually create those portfolios and look
Mhm.
how they're actually growing and developing. Oh my God, Tish,
So
you have
good.
Yes.
actually
So good. This was such a great session. Jamila, you are awesome. We need to like co-present together.
most
I
definitely.
love I love the creativity too. You just give it to them, you give them the leeway, and then they use those higher order thinking skills to just be creative. And then sometimes you're shocked because, like what Jamila was saying, it might be like a nonverbal person or someone who's shy, and then all of a sudden you see this wonderful
Yeah.
product that they created.
Yeah.
So I think it's just opening up a new plethora.
Plethora. Yes.
Yes, there you go. For our students, and that's what we need to do. We just need to give them that flexibility
Yes.
to let them perform and do what they can do.
Yes, because even
Absolutely.
think about our language students that they're still actually needing images are the things that we're always sharing back with teachers. Let them actually make sure you have an image to represent what you're actually trying to convey to them, because of course the words may be different, but images
Mhm.
reflect the same
Yes.
things. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
this would be a way for us to bring in and let them create. Baby, I got what you were saying. Yes, that is exactly what we were talking about in
Yes.
class today. So this is a way for everybody to continue that learning process. And whether you're sitting in front of me or you're actually, at home virtual, I can still give you a device and let you create that phone, that tablet.
Yes.
Mhm.
You are connected all day long.
Yes.
Some of our kids, like my daughter, sleeps with her devices. I'm like, girl, if you don't put it up, just leave it charging. But these are the things our kids are actually just they're willing to teach us if we let them.
Man,
Mhm.
listen, that is it. They are willing to teach us, sit side by side with us if we will let them. I love that.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yep.
So I've gotten out of my comfort zone with that so many times. I'm like, you know what, guys, I don't know what this is that y'all using, but I'm willing to actually, look
Yes.
silly and tell you I don't know, but I need y'all to teach me, train me, show me, and please don't post that until we both agree.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Listen, I did not understand that there is this TikTok thing. You'll see on the video when you guys go. They were like, Miss Poncio, it's not like this. You've got to hold it straight arm up. And I was like, why? I don't understand. And they were like, just trust us. This is how it goes. And I'm like, okay.
So, guys, we hope that you have gotten as much as we have out of this
Mhm.
session. This has been awesome. And remember, there are other sessions, and she does have another session today. So, remember, if you haven't checked your schedule, you still have some open time. She does have another session coming up directly after this one.
Mhm.
So, there is another link. Check your sched to actually make sure that you are attending, because I am ready to dig in deeper. I hope that you all are. Remember, our super secret word of the day for this session is tenacity. Let's see. Do we have another question that came in?
It's for me.
Oh,
Are you talking about our EL Schoology group? Because I have several Schoology courses and groups out there. But
okay.
yes, I can put a digital folder and in all of them, and we'll put some
Yeah.
stuff in there.
So, guys, yes, and a lot of these things we can integrate into the Schoology and the Google platform. So, remember, a lot of these are device agnostic. So, you can do it on any type of device, any size, the screen, it actually will convert to that. But it's also kind of platform agnostic as well. It actually works with everything.
Right.
So, we don't have to worry about, well, it'll work with this, but it won't. No, we're making sure that these are tools that you can take, go forth,
Yes.
be prosperous, you know, it's not like the Borg you will convert. No. But we want you to, make sure you're actually getting a chance to utilize some of these things, try them out. And as you said, you have all of our Twitters. Tweet us back. Let us know how it's working. Share things with us so that we know that this was actually something that was beneficial and how your students are actually receptive to this. And you are receptive to it because, hey, we all grow together. Alone, we stay stagnant. So thank you, ladies. It has been awesome.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you all for joining. So much fun today.
And we will see you guys later in our future sessions.